Henry's Housekeeping. The Fat Controller's railway had a fresh look. Old ballast was being replaced with weed-resistant mine spoils collected by the small engines. Donald and Douglas then took it along the line for workmen to pack beneath the rails. The twins had never been whistled at so much, for the cleanliness of their main line made the big engines very pleased. One morning, Henry arrived at Edward's station, feeling puffed up. The weather was fine, he was right on time, and he grinned at the absence of weeds on the line. His smile broke when he glimpsed the siding by the station, which Edward was resting in. "Tut, tut, Edward," he frowned. "Those Scottish twins holding out on your new ballast?" "They've got the rest of the main line to finish," Edward smiled. "My yard and sidings still serve their purpose, so I've no complaints." "We have a standard to uphold, my dear engine," Henry rambled on. "Our spotless main line cannot be tarnished by filthy sidings. It looks like you're trying to grow a vegetable patch. What would the passengers think?" "I didn't know passengers went into sidings. Have I been pulling coaches wrong this whole time?" Edward replied, trying and failing to keep the chuckle out of his voice. Henry glared. "Now, Henry," Edward went on, trying to bring about resolve, "the sidings are meant for trucks. A few weeds haven't hindered my goods traffic. As long as the passengers arrive on time, it's of no concern to them." "Oh, really?" Henry grunted. "We'll just see." "Excuse me, sir." A smartly dressed man with a briefcase froze mid-stride, disarmed at being addressed by an engine. "You are a man of business, are you not?" Yes," the man replied with sudden grandeur. "Yes, I suppose you could say that." "So," Henry ventured, "I'm sure you'll agree that a tidy office is essential for good business." "Most certainly," the man boomed with emphasis. "Then perhaps," Henry beamed with anticipation, "you'll advise my dear friend Edward how unbecoming it is for our railway to be sullied by his dirty siding." "By his... what?" the man faltered. "Siding, sir," Edward smiled. "It's this small bit of track I'm standing on." "I see," the man replied slowly. "And does this, side thing affect the timing of my train?" "Not in the slightest, sir," Edward smiled, "unless our Henry here suddenly grows adventurous." "Then it is of no concern to me," the man replied darkly, turning back to Henry, "so long as I'm not late, and I should hope you wouldn't let that happen." He broke into a stride once more and headed for the coaches. "Well, there you have it, Henry," Edward smiled again. "My sidings can wait. Your passengers can't." As the guard's whistle sounded, Henry thought it best not to retort. He shuffled silently away, brooding all the while. His mood hadn't improved the next day, as he thundered along with an express goods. "It's shameful," he fumed. "How can Edward, of all engines, be so indifferent?" "He's not the only one," groaned a truck. "Those sidings are certainly affecting you lot," Henry sniffed. "No wonder, with all those weeds tangling up in your wheels and tickling your frames." "And if that weren't enough, they gave us an engine painted up to look like weeds," groused a van. "Donald and Douglas should cover him in ballast," smirked another truck. "Then we'd be free from his moaning." The trucks cackled like hyenas. Henry was far from amused. As they thundered through Edward's station, he gave an indignant puff. A shower of sparks burst from his funnel. The fireman nearly dropped his shovel in surprise. "He's got spirit today," chuckled the driver. "Must be prepping for the hill. Go to it, old boy!" Birds fled from the trees as Henry snorted up the hill. The trucks were too startled to try any tricks, so the train crested the top in no time. Gordon, about to descend with the express, gaped at the noise. Henry whistled with relief and sped off down the line. A short while later, he was coming home with his return goods. His mood had greatly improved, thanks in part to the weed-free main line. He sighed contentedly as he started down Gordon's Hill. "I reckon being cooped up on that branch line has gone to Edward's smokebox. If only he came up the hill more often, I'm sure he'd have a higher appreciation for cleanliness." Henry trailed off. The tail of a train sat at the bottom of the hill. Sure enough, he saw coaches, still as statues. The express. But I passed Gordon ages ago. Gordon sat just outside Edward Station, while wisps of smoke rose into the air. Close by, a man waved a red flag, and Henry drew to a halt. "Not having a rest, are you, Gordon?" he asked incredulously. "No," came a stern voice. "He's been forced to stop and admire your work." It was the station master, pointing to Edward's siding. A fire engine was nearby, and had evidently done its job. Henry might have been pleased the weeds were gone, were it not for the charred black spots that took their place. The brickwork of the station had been dirtied by the smoke, the last remaining traces of which rose lazily into the air. "Always a big to-do with you mainline types, isn't it? Bad enough that you make all that racket, but then you try and set my station ablaze." "I doubt that little fire could have spread to the station," mused a fireman, but a glare quickly silenced him. Before the station master could lay into Henry further, an inspector spoke. "We'll have to replace the rails and sleepers and the siding itself, but the points are undamaged. You're clear to proceed, Gordon." With an indignant whistle, Gordon clanked off, wheeshing pointedly at Henry. As he passed, a head popped out of a carriage window. It was the smartly dressed man. "I thought we had quite agreed that a proper engine of business isn't sidetracked by side things. Stick to the main things. Otherwise, I'll not be taking your trains again." He tucked his head back inside the coach and promptly shut the window. Henry stared blankly as Gordon gathered speed and disappeared. Cold receptions followed Henry after that. With his brow furrowed, the fat controller made it clear he wouldn't tolerate further damage caused by engines playing firecrackers. The station master held a furious gaze whenever he passed Wellsworth, and Donald and Douglas scowled at him, cross that their work had been interrupted to mend the siding. Amidst the scowls, he did receive one smile, from the last engine he wanted to see. "Hello, Henry. I see you were tired of waiting for the weeds to be tended to. Forgive me, but now you'll have to wait if you'd like help up the hill, what with my siding under repair. I'd take care with your housekeeping methods in future. I wouldn't want to draw further ire from our station master." As two cold eyes glared through the station window, Henry gave a dry chuckle. At last, he'd found something he and Edward could agree on.